Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Tribal King. That's the guy you can see on screen right now, and as always I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first part of the video, and in the second part of the video we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations and equipment and everything else you need to know. Now let's get right into it. So this character is going to be a melee character, as you probably already can tell, and the specialty about this character is that I wanted to make a melee character that's proficient with pretty much every single melee weapon in the game. So, as most of you are probably aware, in this game you do have multiple different versions of melee weapons, meaning you have unarmed weapons, like the one we're using at the moment, the Deathclaw Gauntlet, then you do have gladiator weapons, which are basically swords and knives for the most part, or little clubs. And then you do have slugger weapons. Slugger weapons are two-handed melee weapons, so think about big hammers, axes, and so on. Now, uh, on paper, I think this is a good idea, so that you can specialize more into one specific type of melee weapon. I always felt in older games that it felt a bit weird being able to simultaneously wield a super big hammer or anything and be super proficient with a knife, even though the skills required are probably have a bit of a same basis. For example, strength always boosts the damage and so on. But in Fallout 76 and really just started in Fallout 4, it's a bit more separated, which I do like. But on the other hand, it sure is a nice thing if you are able to utilize multiple different versions. And that's what we're going to do here. And one reason I done that, to be honest, is to show off kind of another character. I mean, it's not really a build, but something I just wanted to do for ages in this game, which is utilizing the different Slayer perks. So, not perks, the legendary effect, sorry. So, as you are aware, there are multiple different Slayer effects like Troubleshooter, Mutant Slayer, Ghoul Slayer, and so on. Those effects give your weapon extra damage against a specific type of enemy, which sure is a very nice thing. And big downside here is that, well, pretty much the whole boost you get from these effects, yeah, you can get better boosts that are just universally good. I'll talk about things like anti-armor or junkies or very obviously bloodied. If you utilize those legendary effects, you don't really have to bother about various types of enemies or anything, or carrying a lot of weapons. You can just use one weapon and be good against anything. Well, you see, you can use the Hunter's effect, by the way, and still need 4 hits for a mole rat to kill, just by not hitting it at all, like I've done here. But if you manage to hit the enemies, your Hunter's effect, for example, on this occasion, will definitely help you out, do more damage, and basically this is what I wanted to try. Now, one area where these effects are very good, in my opinion, is actually on armor. More so than on weapons, but yeah, on armor it works relatively well. You can basically, if you go all in, use just a certain kind of weapon, armor type. You can, for example, reduce the damage from, let's say, super mutants by 75%, provided you do have a full set of that kind of armor, which is pretty massive, but not really a good idea for day-to-day usage. So what I ended up doing is I carefully picked the right kind of pieces in order to fit my playstyle, and then tried to combine a set. Now, what I ran with ultimately was using two pieces of Mutant Slayer's armor, so we have 30% less damage from super mutants. Then I have 2 pieces of Troubleshooter's armor, meaning 30% less damage from robots, sorry. And lastly, I can't really remember, to be honest. I think it's Exterminators, so we have a bit less damage from bugs and arachnids and so on. But ultimately what I went for here is I avoided Ghoul Slayers and hunters, for the simple reason that ghouls and animals, for the very most part, I think pretty much exceptionally, uh, are melee enemies. And we do have a perk active that reduces the damage from melee enemies by 45%. So those enemies are already kind of taken care of, to be honest. So then there was zealots, troubleshooters, mutant slayers, and assassins. I decided against assassins because honestly, in day-to-day gaming sessions in Fallout 76, I don't feel like you're really fighting human enemies all that often. And even if you do, they're kind of squishy. Now, they can sometimes put out a lot of damage, but overall, they go down relatively quickly and aren't the biggest threat. Then we do have zealots, which I decided against for the reason that Scorch Piece you can pretty much completely counter by using Fireproof, which we do. So their screaming attacks don't do anything against you. And other than that, they only have melee attacks, which yet again are countered by Blocker. And the only thing where you aren't having any protection from are the Scorched, not the Scorched Beast, but the humanoid characters, if they're shooting at you. And yeah, they can do a bit of damage, but similar to Assassin, to human enemies, they mostly go down very quickly, and I rarely find myself overwhelmed by them. So that left me with basically the Mutant Slayer's effects, which, yeah, mutants can be a bit of a trouble, and they tend to be some of the most dangerous enemies that you're facing in day-to-day gaming in this game. And same goes for troubleshooters, so for robots. They also are kind of pretty bad. Most of them go down relatively easy and don't put up a big fight, but especially some variants, so talking about the Assaultron and the Ballistic Mr. Gutsies, those can be a pain in the ass, and reducing their damage by 30% is definitely a good thing. So that's pretty much it. We have it covered for armor. Basically, that's the whole idea behind it. And as you can see here, when we're fighting against super mutants, I think it turned out relatively okay. Now, it isn't enough. Two pieces aren't enough to make you invincible on a squishy character or anything, but combine those pieces with an already tanky character, and you're up for a really fun time. And in terms of weapons, I have a weapon with one of the Slayer's effect for, I think I have it covered for every single enemy type in the game, and there's still a lot of room for improvement. So what I mean by that is, for example, on this occasion here, the only Mutant Slayer's weapon I had on my hand was a spear, and it has extra limb damage, I think, so overall it's not the greatest weapon. Now, if this had swing speed, for example, or power attack damage, I'd be pretty happy actually. The spear was a naturally well-fitting weapon for the job here, for the whole tribal theme. Now, there's an abundance of weapons that work very well with this theme when it comes to melee in this game. So basically, all the weapons that were added by the what was it, Wild Wasteland? I think it was Wild Wasteland. You know the Sheep Squatch stuff. Sheep Squatch Club, Sheep Squatch stuff. Those work very well with the whole theme. Then you do have cultist weaponry. The cultist blades are currently legacy, but you do have the daggers. And then you do have stuff like the one I'm wielding at the moment, the spear, which is pretty tribal looking in my opinion. It's a natural fit. We do have the Grognax axe. It's our Zealot's weapon, so we won't see that in effect. I didn't bother to fight the Scorched Beast earlier. You know the thrill. I'm a melee character, and basically that would just be 5 minutes of me fighting it when I guess about 3 to 4 minutes just waiting for it to land. So not all that exciting, but yeah, I can imagine you know how it goes. One weapon I'm also not really happy about is the only hunter's weapon I have is a war drum. It has swing speed, so in terms of damage and damage output, it's actually pretty great against animals. But yeah, I just don't like the war drum. I mean, it works pretty well actually for a tribal character, but yeah, still not convinced. Don't really like it all that much. This here is another example of something I don't really like for the simple reason that, yeah, we do have an Assassin's Cultist dagger here. It doesn't have swing speed or power attack damage or anything, so it's not all that great. And yeah, the base weapon isn't all that good. So we were definitely better off if we were just using one of our slugger weapons, but that's not really the point here. Yeah, okay, I think we finally have to use a Stimpack here. The point is you can really work on your arsenal. It also makes the gameplay quite enjoyable because it really opens the chance that if you kill a legendary enemy, you will find something you can use. And it definitely feels very fresh to just switch up things a little bit and constantly changing your loadout, changing your weapons all the time. It really helps to not feel bored in the game. And as I said, yeah, you really have a better chance of finding a weapon that makes you actually happy. Like finding a Mutant Slayer swing speed weapon in a player vendor, probably for something like 500 caps or so, can really make your day on this occasion. This was a surprisingly powerful blow now. I mean, it's a level 50 dog, but was from our weakest weapon. We're now going to see the Hunter's War Drum in effect. I haven't really shown it off so far, I think. Where's the guy? There seems to be... Am I blind? Okay, we're now regenerating, so... Well, I guess it's going to be okay. We lost our adrenaline by that time anyways, I guess, so... Let's hope for something great around the corner here. We do have foxes. Yeah, they kind of work. Okay, we have a Deathclone Matriarch here. Going to go down relatively quickly, so no biggie there. And then we go back to our Mutant Slayer Spear because we're about to kill some mutants. And yeah, back to the topic. There's obviously one thing where you will have weapons that are just so much better in terms of damage that even if you're not using them for the appropriate enemy type, you will do probably more damage than if you were to use your weapon with the appropriate legendary effect. But that's first and foremost not necessary to do. You can obviously just go for any kind of legendary effect on your melee weapons. This is primarily just a melee character. And as I said, on the other hand, it makes gameplay a bit more tactical, and definitely it's something you can expand on in the future. Depending on how much time you want to put into this kind of character, you can really start to think about certain dream weapons. There's a lot you can do. As I said, sheepsquatch clubs and sheepsquatch staffs, they can be very effective weapons, and yeah, they're a lot of fun. In terms of damage, we are decked out pretty evenly between the different classes, meaning Gladiator, Iron Fist for unarmed weapons, and Slugger for two-handed weapons. But that's also something you can just avoid, or you can just choose your favorite class and just go for primarily those weapons. I just thought we're utilizing the benefits from the legendary effects to just go for basically all-in character that's, yeah, just boosted by having the appropriate equipment, which is kind of fitting for a tribal character. And also, we have a lot of base strength for a full health build. There's obviously room for improvement, but we're doing relatively fine, I guess. And the main topic here is that we're relatively tanky. And yeah, that's about it. Like, it's really a pretty simple build on paper, but the way you're playing it feels definitely a lot more different to other melee characters. than I would have expected. I'm possibly going to look into this kind of character in the future with ranged weaponry, but I'm not quite sure yet. It depends on my drops and what I find in player vendors and so on. But obviously I had a lot of fun with this character. Was working with it for like 1.5 weeks at this point. Yeah, it was really entertaining. Basically, the base of this build is actually the one I did last week, where I was trying to do a melee character that didn't use armor but a hazmat suit. So that's why we are naturally a bit tanky. The core of that build is still somewhat in there, and I just threw on top some damage perks, not a lot honestly. I used some armor, and well, I was just searching for the equipment. One thing to be said about the equipment is that another satisfying thing about it is this guy is absolutely cheap to maintain. Like, usually if you go for a certain playstyle, you have to accept to pay a few thousand caps. Think about Junkies, for example, a set of Vanguard's armor or something, and a good Junkies faster fire rate weapon or something. Yeah, you can expect to go all in and pay something like 20 to 30k caps, search for a while for good deals and so on. Well, this character, basically the whole equipment I threw together in a session of 2 hours by vendor hopping, and I didn't really count, but honestly, if I were to guess, I invested something like 3 to 4,000 caps into the character, and I'm pretty decked out. So this is definitely a positive thing about the character. But anyways, this was the gameplay. I have a feeling that I was, in terms of talking, I was a bit all over the place this time around because there's a lot to unpack, but it's not really the most interesting thing. So yeah, this would definitely have gone a bit better if I had kind of a script or anything, but I hope I did get the point across. And now we're going to take a look at the more in-depth view, like the mutations first and foremost. So here you can see them. We do have Grounded, Healing Factor, Marsupial, Scaly Skin, Speed Demon, Talons, Twisted Muscle, and Unstable Isotope. Unstable Isotope, hit or miss, don't use it, use it. It doesn't really do a whole lot to you, it's just a little bit of an effect. And I wouldn't even bother to use it if it wasn't on the character already. But the rest is where it should be, in my opinion. Now, Grounded gives us extra energy resistance and negative to gun damage. Energy gun damage, but we're not using any gun, and especially not energy guns. So yeah, it's just a bit more energy resistance. 100 more energy resistance, to be honest, and that's pretty okay. Next on the list is Healing Factor. Feels fitting for a tribal character. We're not going to utilize modern medicine to a big extent. As you saw there during the whole video, we were doing like 1 or 2 stimpaks. So most of it is down to being naturally tanky, and in addition to that, yeah, as long as we can survive a fight, we don't have to bother with medicine, because afterwards we're going to be back to full health in no time. And yeah, as you saw in the video, it's not a lot of skirmishes that go so wrong as that we need to heal in the mid-time. A nice thing to do is actually, if you want to invest the time, to go for healing souls. They're really well fitting the character here. They just need a bit of effort from your perspective to just grind the materials and everything. But with the right guides that you can find on YouTube and everything, you should be able to gather a lot of those. Anyways, next mutation here is marsupial, more jump height, carry weight, you know the thrill. Scaly skin, similar to grounded, gives us more resistances, but this time damage and energy resistance, and both 50 each. And yeah, the downside is minus 50 AP. We do run Class Freak, this is just a visual glitch here. So we're actually down to minus 12.5 AP or something, which isn't a lot in the first place. And on the other hand, yeah, we're not using Sneak, we're not using that. So basically all we're using our action points for is sprinting and power attacking. And both we can do quite a lot. So a bit of a downside to AP isn't really a big problem. Speed Demon, now I say this basically on every single melee character because yeah, people often just view the benefits of Speed Demon as improved reload speed, which obviously doesn't do anything for us here. But I personally found every character that doesn't use Speed Demon feels just super slow. It's just 20% movement speed, but honestly, I wouldn't want to live without it. It's a bit stupid, honestly, because it's just such a plain benefit. Yeah, you feel like a slug without it, in my opinion. And that's it. Next on the list, we do have talents here. We do have a debuff to agility. It's -1 agility in all actuality, because, as I said, we have class streak. This is just a visual glitch. And yeah, what it does is it gives us extra unarmed damage, which is obviously nice since we're using unarmed weapons from time to time. And in addition to that, we're going to add bleed damage to those, which also are more damage. So we're gonna take that. Then we do have twisted muscles. 25% extra melee damage and a chance to cripple. This also affects our unarmed weapons yet again, so they do benefit from talents and twisted muscles. But yeah, every single weapon that we're using has a benefit from twisted muscles. Cripple chance also pretty nice, and yet again, gun accuracy. Well, we're not using guns, so even if the downsides are relatively slow, anyways, with class 3, yeah, they're completely pointless. And yeah, that's it in terms of mutations. So now let's take a look at our equipment, which is going to be a bit of a longer story than usual. So we have an Assassin's Cultist Dagger with a useless effect of reflecting melee damage while blocking. We're not going to block. And yeah, extra endurance. So a bit more tankiness, but honestly, yeah, this is one of the ones I'm not so happy about, not so thrilled. Would definitely like to see something better. Now, if this had swing speed, for example, it would make for a nice fit, being very fast weapon, poking enemies to death. But anyways, so this is just in for good measurement. Then we do have an Exterminator swing speed bone club, which actually first I wasn't really impressed, but on second hand, on a second look, I actually kind of like the weapon. Now, first and foremost, yeah, it's very fitting of the aesthetic, basically just using a bone from an enemy to hit enemies with. That's super savage. So yeah, we're not gonna argue against that. I would not have been against a good bone hammer, to be honest, but yeah, we have what it takes. And this one's actually nice because it has the wounding modification. And for those of you who don't know, yes, there are actually modifications for the bone weapons, meaning the bone club and the bone hammer. The thing is, though, similar to the serrated blade and on the cultist blade, you cannot learn these mods. Either your weapon that you're getting comes equipped with the weapon, or it doesn't. You can't even modify it or inspect it on a weapons workbench. So they do have this effect, or they don't have it. And what this wounding modification does, it adds a little bit of bleed damage, which doesn't sound like a lot, but on such a fast swinging weapon, especially with swing speed, it actually adds up quite a little. And keep in mind, Exterminators is, for example, one weapon we would use against the Mylar Queen and Mylar Kings, and stacking bleed damage on them, actually not a bad thing. I do quite enjoy it, because otherwise there's not a whole lot of melee weapons other than our unarmed weapons that carry bleed damage, so this is definitely a nice thing here. Then this is one of the most effective weapons actually for what it does. A Ghoul Slayer's Deathclaw Gauntlet with extra limb damage, so limb damage kind of pointless. But the sheer fact that the Deathclaw Gauntlet is pretty good, ghouls are pretty squishy and we're doing 30% more damage to them. Yeah, that's nice, and basically, yeah, killing ghouls is one of the most fun experiences with this build. No threat whatsoever, and yeah, you can just slaughter them. Then we do have the Hunter's War Drum, which I gotta say is a pretty effective weapon for our build when we're going against Yao Guai. Also works on Scorch Beast, but we do have something better there, or should work on Scorch Beast at least, but yeah. Pretty good actually. Reduced weight definitely nice on the thing. It's otherwise quite heavy, even though we're reducing its weight a little bit with Martial Artist. Yeah, and swing speed definitely doesn't hurt. So actually pretty good. Does fit the character. I just hate how it looks. It looks super ridiculous and not like a in any way effective melee weapon, to be honest. But yeah. Then we do have a Mutant Slayer Spear. I find the spear quite appropriate. It's definitely kind of weapon. Not that I would ever go against something like a 2.5 meter tall green mutant, but if I I would definitely probably maybe take a spear because it has a little bit of range and I think it can pierce through their skin. Yeah, it's a Mutant Slayer spear, what should I say? Swing speed would have been better, strength obviously too, but yeah, the Mutant Slayer's effect was what we got, and it could have gotten worse. Not by much, but a bit. Then we have a cool thing. This here I found in a player vendor, was relatively cheap, 1k or something. I mean, probably even overpriced, but yeah. A power attack damage, robot slaying, so troubleshooters, reduced weight bear arm. Keep in mind we don't have any modifications for it because I'm not a big fan of Project Paradise. And yeah, it's a plain version, therefore, which I honestly even prefer from the looks. All the modifications I know for the thing look kind of hilarious. I mean, it's already super big, and that throws me off a little bit, but in theory it's a very cool weapon, and yet again very fitting for a tribal character. Using the skull of an enemy is savage, what should I say? And yeah, for one, yeah, troubleshooters, extra damage to robots, we wanted to have that. And power attack damage, actually pretty nice on an unarmed weapon, since they're relatively fast swinging anyways. They don't cost a hell lot of AP, so yeah, you can pull quite a few power attacks before you run out of AP with that. And last on the list here, we do have a Zealot swing speed. Grognak's Axe. The Grognak's Axe, super cool melee weapon, I do love it. I'll use it a bunch of times. And this one here, yeah, Zealot. Actually, this one's pretty good, especially for the Scourge Beast. I wanted to have something with a bit of punching power because, yeah, they have quite a high health pool, so fights can drag on a little bit. But I fought some Scourge Beast with it, and to be honest, they go down relatively fast, something like 6 to 7 hits. If you include some power attacks, you can pull that amount of hits off very fast with the weapon. It swings super fast with the swing speed legendary effect. And yeah, unless you're fighting a level 100 legendary one, which will regenerate and then usually take off again, yeah, that can make the fight drag a little bit, but not because you're losing damage, because you're lacking damage output, but just, yeah, Scorch Beast behavior. And then we're going on to look at our armor, where I immediately see that I have lied to you. The last piece wasn't Zealots as I expected, but Hunters, so yeah, not the best one, but definitely doesn't hurt. Comes in handy when we're fighting Yaoguai, for example. Extra agility doesn't hurt either. And then we have two Mutant Slayer pieces here. You can see one is with AP refresh, one is with environmental disease resistance, falling damage resistance, and junk item weight reduction, so not really great. And we do have a 1-star troubleshooters piece, and yet again a 1-star troubleshooters piece. So as you can see here, in terms of armor, we're not really decked out. We're not even... Well, this one's polished, but I think the marine armor pieces, yeah, they're not... well, the arm is buttressed, but the leg is only welded, so definitely not really great armor pieces, honestly. They're actually super trash, but as you can see there, due to perks and so on, we still have something along the lines of 400 damage and 480 energy resistance, which is well above the diminishing returns. So in terms of armor, we're pretty decked out. Even if we're just using trashy armor, which yet again fits the character pretty well, just a cheap guy, getting a lot of, scrounging a lot of stuff that others would throw away. So yeah, that's basically the best thing about the build. It works with very little investment into equipment, even though it would on first sight seem as if that would be the hard part of being doing the build, but yeah, you're getting there in no time. Now, looking at our perks here, we do have Strength, we do have Barbarian, Blocker, Incisor, Martial Artist, and Gladiator, Iron Fist, and Slugger, so quite a mouthful. The important part here is I wanted to include Barbarian because, as I said, I wanted to use just every piece of armor I come across and don't really bother with resistances all that much, so they're still implemented just in the build. That's definitely something you can over time throw out of the window if you find better equipment, so it doesn't really matter anymore. Yeah, if you get a full set of, let's say, Secret Service armor with a few fitting effects, yeah, you can definitely throw out Barbarian, for example. Blocker I would always keep, simply as I said, pretty much every animal and every ghoul in the game are completely countered. Um, and by completely countered, I mean they do 45% less damage, but that's really significant. So next on the list we do have Incisor and Martial Artist. Now those are, in my opinion, the most powerful perks for a melee character. Arguably, Incisor and Martial Artist both do more to you than all the 9 damage boosting perks. It's just my opinion, but I think in terms of DPS, those help you more than the damage perks. And speaking about the damage perks, we were left with 3 perk points. Obviously, we wouldn't have strength maxed out. So what I did here is I invested into 1 point of Gladiator, 1 point of Iron Fist, and 1 point of Slugger, just to boost our damage with melee weapons by 10% across the board. This covers every single melee weapon and was nice and fitting. Just a little investment, so we're not the most skilled fighter or anything, but our tribal lifestyle, our sheer strength, our survivability, that's what making us a great fighter. And then we do have Perception, where we have a filler perk. I just threw in Fire in the Hole rank 1 there. If you really want to use something that's useful to you, use 1 rank of Glow Sight or maybe Exterminators, but yeah, there's nothing you need here. Perception isn't really important for us, so it's just a dump stat, and yeah, fill it with whatever single rank per card you can find. Use 1 rank of Refractor for 10% extra energy resistance if you don't know anything else. Next here we do have Endurance, 15, very high. You don't often see that on characters. Maybe it's a bit more prominent nowadays because due to legendary perks you have a bit more room for such perks, but usually Endurance is even kind of a dump stat for a lot of people. It definitely makes a big difference though, in my opinion, especially if you go for a character that's not going to be stealthy or in power armor. I do kind of like to go for higher Endurance. This gives you a bigger health pool, and actually there are quite a few good perks here. Most notably, we do have Adamantium Skeleton, completely reducing our limb damage so we can't get crippled. Fireproof, completely, or basically completely reducing damage from explosions. It says 45% less damage, but in all reality, everyone who ever used Fireproof knows that it's way more than that. Then we do have 1 rank of Radical. That's the only one that's definitely not going to do a whole lot for us, but I was left with 1 extra perk point, so use it for whatever you like here. I just threw in Radical. And then lastly we do have Ghoulish and Ironclad. Now Ghoulish is very nice if you're fighting in proximity to a fissure site, for example. You do have constant healing going on. Fighting ghouls, super easy. They do heal you for as much as they do damage you. So yeah, I'm pretty confident I could stand in Whitespring, punch one of the guys so the others wake up, and then go for a cigarette and come back completely alive. I'm pretty sure that would be possible, to be honest, unless there is a gang of glowing ones ganging up on you. And yeah, probably sooner or later they irradiate you for too much, but even that we have kind of counted a little bit. Lastly, then we do have Ironclad here. One of the first perks I would ditch if I have better equipment. Let's say, as I said earlier, if you go for Secret Service armor and you finally finish a set and you're basically done in terms of armor, then you're easily going to reach the 300, 350 mark with your resistances without using perks like Ironclad, Barbarian, and Evasive. So over time you can really throw them out of the window. But if you want to keep it simple, if you want to just go for whatever you scrounge up a little bit, I still think these perks have their value somewhere. So yeah, I kind of like to, for once, not care all that much. Another good addition is you can basically stop repairing your armor if you want to, because even if all your armor breaks, you still have quite a bit of resistances left. And in addition to that, you do have your perks like Blocker, you do have your legendary effects, so 30% less damage from mutants, 30% less damage from robots, another 15% less damage from animals. So yeah, that makes it pretty much possible that you can just live without armor. and yeah, just keep it for the effects. Then we're going to move on. We do have Charisma at rank 8 here. We do have Lone Wanderer maxed out, less damage, more AP refresh, pretty good perk overall. Then we do have rank 2 of Tenderizer. Obviously, I would have maxed that out. And lastly, I would throw in something else. To be honest, I just realized I have 8 Charisma. I was pretty sure it should have been at 7. Yeah, actually pretty sure. Maybe I have a legendary charisma perk in there somewhere, but anyways, we do have quite a few perk points from legendary perks, so yeah, even though there's a wasted perk there, yeah, just use something else. So sorry about that hiccup. I'm not going to record the video again. I really have to think about why that happened, but yeah, sure. Then we have intelligence at 1. We're kind of stupid, so that's just a thing we're going to live with. Low XP. We're not the fastest guy, and you can go for whatever you like here. I used 1 rank of first aid, so basically what it does is, since we're having a debuff from our healing factor mutation, if we want to use a Stimpack, rank 1 of first aid makes it so the Stimpack works like it would normally without the debuff. That's it basically. To be honest, with rank 1, there's not a whole lot you could really do here. You could go for 1 rank of Makeshift Warrior to ever so slightly reduce the time, the condition loss on your weapons, but that's about it, honestly. And another thing to keep in mind, especially with the loadouts nowadays, you can obviously still craft all of your weapons if you want to just switch out to another loadout. But another nice addition is that actually a lot of the weapons that you can use for this character that are quite fitting, talking about the Bone Club, the Bone Hammer, the Spear, the Grognak's Axe, a lot of these weapons don't actually have any modifications, so they come pre-prepared. Bit of a lie, as I said earlier, some of them have modifications, but oftentimes you can mod them. It doesn't matter if you have Makeshift Warrior or not, so therefore less of a drawback than maybe on first thought you'd think. Then we do have 11 agility, still relatively high, but on the other hand, oftentimes when I do melee characters, I have agility maxed out. So on this occasion, we do have rank 3 of evasive, rank 3 of light knight, and rank 5 of adrenaline. Now, starting with the banger here, adrenaline, just a good perk if you have room for it. So basically, always, unless you're doing a gunslinger or guerrilla build. Yeah, just included. More damage in most situations, like very often when you fight, there are multiple enemies. It's very rarely that you fight one big boss, and even then they are surrounded by smaller critters. So it's just an all-round a good perk, in my opinion. Evasive, same story as with Ironclad and Barbarian. I'm not gonna chew through the whole story again. Yeah, get rid of it as soon as your equipment is better, or if you don't want to bother with equipment, just leave it there. Then we do have White Knight, which I quite like. Yeah, just improves. It doesn't improve the armor durability, but yeah, you can go for longer without having to repair it. And to be honest, while I don't really bother, or while it doesn't really bother me to repair my weapons, for some reason, yeah, armor that breaks is just tedious. I hate it. I get why it's a thing in the game though, so yeah. But on this occasion, yeah, makes your armor cheaper to repair, and also, yeah, lasts longer. Pretty easy. Then lastly, we go to luck here, where we do have Bloody Mass, Glass Freak, and Starch Jeans. Bloody Mass, bit of more damage, kind of counters the fact that we're not having a lot of perks going on for Gladiator, Iron Fist, and Slugger. On the other hand, it does very little, so you can definitely go with something else here. You could go for Ricochet to just improve your survivability a bit more. In all fairness, it does just like 10 extra damage points on most of your weapons, so it's by no means necessary. I actually mostly have it for the effect, so sometimes enemies explode. Not explode like in the legendary perk version, but explode into this tiny giblets, which I really enjoy. Nowadays, since Bloody Mess gets used less and less, I kind of miss that actually. And on this occasion, we did have the perk points left to do it, and yeah, it's still, even though if it's not worth maybe 3 perk points, it's still a bit more extra damage. So I went with it. And Class Freak, well, honestly, mostly there to counter our agility debuffs. We're dumb as hell, so yeah, the intelligence debuff from Marsupial doesn't mean anything because we can't get dumber than we are, actually. Yeah, then all of the gun debuffs don't affect us. It's basically just agility debuffs and strength debuffs. I don't think we even have a strength debuff, so yeah. We just have a bit more intelligence, so yet again, go for something else if you like to. Yeah, add in anything really. What you could do for once, actually use some like mystery meat, which is a bit fun, I guess. So could also help you to basically generate maybe rare meat. I'm not sure how it works actually, but yeah. Let's get on to our legendary perks, and here we have it. That's the bastard. Don't know why it sneaked in there. So yeah, let's just throw in exploding palm for a good measure here. So we do have collateral damage. Enemies killed with a melee weapon have a 10% chance to explode. Doesn't happen all that often, rarely does a whole lot, but it's fun. If it procs, it really looks nice, and it overall still is a bit of a damage boost to your melee weapons, so I went for that. So as you can see here, I ran the whole time with Exploding Palm. You never really saw it proc during the video, but trust me, it was there all the time. Extra damage with unarmed weapons, basically, and definitely one of the best explosive perks when it comes to the legendary perks. So yeah, I would definitely recommend you use that because yeah, you're using unarmed weapons quite often here. Then you have legendary strength maxed out. That's just a given. I would do that on every single melee character if I could, even though it's not a whole lot of extra damage. It still is a bit. It's definitely more than bloody mess, I guess. So there's that. Then we do have one legendary luck and one legendary agility. Those don't do a whole lot, as you can probably tell, but they're there. So in both skill trees, I think we have a little bit of room for using less perks. So you could definitely live without those. And lastly, we do have Wad Rats. I do quite like the perk. I know it's not boosting any damage or anything, but especially on a melee character, you're definitely getting radiation every time, or all the time. And even if it's just small amounts and don't really affect your abilities, I still don't like to have that little red dot in the left down corner of my screen. So what reds is just a convenience, and especially if you're fighting something like ghouls or anything, it makes the whole situation more bearable. So yeah, that's why that's there. And basically, guys, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I know this character isn't all that min-maxed or anything, but I actually did enjoy it quite a lot. There's definitely room for exploration here. I really want to get into it a bit more deeply, but I think it's not going to be worth making another video because what you saw is what you get. Basically, the whole idea is that, yeah, over time you can just collect more stuff. You can just use various weapons, which really switches up things a little bit. I know melee in this game can be kind of boring because it's just hit, 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 run, run, run and shit. But, I mean, that's not going to change with this build, obviously, you're still doing the same. But using different weapons every now and then, just the feeling of having another weapon in your hand, um, really alters the gameplay, in my opinion. It does a whole lot. Looking at enemies, sometimes even wondering, hey, what's the appropriate effect? For example, one enemy type I still don't know how it is classified are mole miners. I tried to look it up online, but uh, no matter what Google search I tried, I always ended up with Reddit threads and guides on how to find legendary mole miners during the treasure hunter event, which wasn't what I was looking for. So yeah, I'm still not sure. My guess is that they're probably going to be either affected by hunters or animals, hunters or sorry, assassins. But in a way, they make sense for everything. There are kind of mutants, then they are kind of ghouls, probably. Um, they could be affected by assassins, that would make sense, and hunters, well, they're definitely some kind of creature, so I mean, I'm pretty sure they're not affected by exterminators, and they're probably not affected by zealots. And I'm pretty sure they're not a robot, but yeah, you see what I'm getting there. It's very much a non-meta build, obviously, but it can be a lot of fun. There's a lot of little aspects to it that really help give you a bit of an older Fallout feeling, in my opinion. One thing I can vividly remember playing the older games was that I was always running around with tons of weapons and choosing different weapons for different situations, which I'm rarely doing nowadays in this game. And Fallout 4 also, I didn't really do that. Yeah, specializing in one category is more important than ever. But with this build, I feel like you can definitely have a little bit of a all-rounder melee feel, and basically that's what I went for here. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys, and keep an eye out for the last tribal build this week. Going to be a power armor build. So see you guys. Bye.